God's request of mankind in general, and of the Jewish people in particular, seems incredibly demanding if you think about it. Why would a supposedly loving God complicate our lives with such detailed instructions? Life is difficult enough as it is. And here comes this God that says he loves us, and what does he do to show his love? He gives us a lot of instructions of what we can do and what we can't do. So that's a general question. I want to narrow the question a little bit. How can the actions of a finite human being matter to an infinite God? So question one is, why does he do it? Why does he give us all these instructions? Question two is, what could we possibly mean to him? The vast majority of the world, and I think the poll in the United States, I don't know what the world poll would be, but if asked in the United States, do you believe in God? The numbers are staggering. Somewhere between 93 and 97% would say yes. Yeah, in God we trust. It's on our currency. But the question really is so open, do you believe in God? It's easy. It's easy to say yes because no one's attaching anything to finish the sentence. Do you believe in God? And therefore you do A, B, and C. It's just, do you believe in God? So it's very easy to say that you believe in a creator, that you believe in a supreme being. I'm very happy to embrace a relationship with a no strings attached God. Don't tell me what to do and I'll believe you and I'll say a prayer once in a while. Whatever religion you may be from, I believe in God. Or no religion at all, I just believe in God. The moment you start putting strings attached to it, and therefore, that 93% number drops significantly. So I can believe in God if it's just lip service. But the moment you start telling me details, and therefore I must do A, B, C, and that keeps going, more than we have letters for, now I'm not sure how much I believe in that God. I'll take the no strings attached God. The Torah tells me that God gave us mitzvot. What do we translate that word mitzvot to mean? Commandments. Commandments, instructions. The Torah is a guidebook. It's a book of teachings. It's a manual of a how-to go through life. Well, what are the commandments? If they all sound great to me, fun, exciting, I got no problems there. If you give me a book and the book tells me to do all the things that I like to do anyway, it's a great book. I'm still on to this belief in God because he gave me a book, a manual of everything that I love doing anyhow. You can have chocolate cake for breakfast with whipped cream on it. Yes, God, I believe in you. Right? If he continues to list everything that I like, it's wonderful. But when these commandments start to infringe on my likes, on my desires, on my quality of life, on what I can do, what I can't do, then we're not as eager to embrace this God relationship. Then we're clearly dealing with a strings attached God. And that's a whole different story. So the issue that I'd like to present to you that we have with God and our belief in God is both intellectual and emotional. And they're not exactly the same, although they connect. What's the intellectual question we have? It's a philosophical question. Think along with me. If God is so great, if God is infinite, is it possible that I matter to him in any way, shape, or form? I'm going to give you an example. Consider a single bacterium. The average human body has 39 trillions of them. floating around in your body right now. That's a big number. How significant is 1 out of 39 trillion? What place does it have? It's practically as if it doesn't exist. It's so insignificant. Are we, relative to God, any more than a single cell? When I'm dealing with anything finite, it's finite and finite. When I'm dealing with the infinite, how can there possibly be a relationship? I walk on the ground, on the sidewalk. I'm not looking to see if there's this little ant that's less than a half an inch. I'm just taking my steps. What kind of relationship can I have with a little bug that's walking on the sidewalk? I'm a human being. I'm 6 foot tall. This is a little insect, a little bug. Totally not significant. Yet I'm finite and the bug is finite. When I'm dealing with a relationship with the infinite, how much room could I possibly have? How much space can I possibly have? How much significance can I possibly have? I'm one little tiny human being in this vast creation of God, and He is the creator, and I am a created being. And now we're going to say that this infinite God cares about what this simple finite human being is doing today. Intellectually and philosophically, how do we make sense with the fact that I matter to God? And if I don't matter to God, then how much more so don't my actions matter to God? King David says it this way in the book of Psalms. It's Psalm number 8. He says, "When I observe your heavens, the work of your fingers, and the moon and the stars that you set in place, I wonder, what is man that you should be mindful of him? What is a human that you should recall him?" I start looking at the vastness of space and the massive creation that you've created, and I'm getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and insignificant. And if we're not significant to Him, then how can you tell me, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this? So if I'm insignificant in the way I feel towards God, how much more so the food that I eat takes on significance to God? That it matters to Him what type of animal it came from, or how that animal was slaughtered, or how it was prepared, would matter to an infinite God? In the words of Elihu from the book of Job, he says, if you sin, how do you affect him? If your transgressions are many, what do you do to him? I mean, is it really going to have an effect on an almighty, infinite creator God? If you are righteous, what did you give him? What does he take from your hand? Your wickedness only affects a human like yourself, and your righteousness only affects people. I understand in interpersonal relationships that we matter. I could make you happy, I could make you sad, I could make you angry. Human to human, I can do something to make your day better, I can do something to make your day worse. I understand human to human relationship. How are we to understand human to God relationship? So why do we have mitzvot? Why do we have all these commandments if it provides nothing to God? If God doesn't benefit from it, why make me do it? Who's benefiting from it? Why does He want me to keep commandments that have absolutely no effect on Him? That's the intellectual, philosophical question. But I said I'm also going to deal with this from an emotional part of us. When we're faced with a choice, more often than not, the operative question that you face to do something or not to do something is, does it feel good or not? That's the human reaction. Am I going to like it or not like it? If I'm going to like it, I will do it. If I'm going to like it, I will taste it. If I don't like it, I won't. That's the human emotional reaction to any choice that you face. Why should I do something if I don't like doing it? Something that you enjoy, I understand. You have an enjoyment for it. And it might not be universal. What you enjoy, I might not, but so what? If you enjoy it, you do it. If I don't, I don't. But here we're being asked to do something that's not necessarily convenient for us, not necessarily enjoyable for us, doesn't necessarily make life easier for us. So let's use this simple example. What makes you do something that you prefer not to do? What would be a reason, a motivating reason to do something that you're really not so comfortable doing, but you're going to do it nevertheless? Let's start with the simple. Financial. Money. I go to work. I have a job. I don't necessarily love the work itself, but what do I love? The paycheck. I need the paycheck. I enjoy the paycheck. So I will go to an office, do something I don't really care much about from 9 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon because I have to do it. Why? Because I need that paycheck that comes at the end of it. That's why many of us do things we don't really care about doing. That's the career we chose. At first we thought we're going to love this career. We got all excited about the career. We went to school for 4 years for the career. And then once we started it, we realized, I don't love it so much, but you know what? They pay well. The benefits are good. So I stick with it. There are many people that get to a point in their life where they just say, I can't do it anymore. Either the work is so monotonous, or their boss is so cruel to them, or their coworkers make their life so miserable that they say, it's not worth it. So you withdraw, you pull back, and you start again, and you try something else. But generally, what makes us do something that we don't really love doing, the first and the simple thing is the compensation. There's a story in the Medrash that before God offered the Torah to the Jewish people, he offered it to all the nations of the world. And he asked them, what does the Torah ask of us? They asked God, what does it say? You're asking us if we want to accept the Torah, give us details. And when God started giving them details, they backed off and not interested. When he came to the Jewish people, our ancestors, what did they say? They said, Na'aseh v'nishma. That means we're accepting it. And then we'll study what it says. So they didn't ask for the details. They simply said, yes, we're doing it. We're taking it. And then they said, okay, what's in it? Now, they are praised for thousands of years for it. Okay, we continuously praise the generation at Sinai because when God asked them, do they want to accept the Torah, they said yes, without asking the details. Na'aseh, we're going to do it. And then they said, well, we'll question what it says inside, only to learn how to behave. It's nice that they're praised for it, but many of their descendants challenged them to say, thank you very much. You accepted it, but we have to live with it. And not everything is easy. And so if I use this model of example of why we do anything, I'm going to, at some point, bring it back to the mitzvot. So the first reason that we establish why you do anything is monetary compensation. If you're lucky that you love the work you do, you're in the minority, and God bless you for it. But most people struggle with work, but they do it nevertheless. There is an opposite side to that. The opposite side is I do something out of fear of a negative consequence. If I don't do this act, I will face a worse consequence. So I will have to take the medicine that I don't like how it tastes. And it's horrible, but if I don't, the consequence is much worse. We face those decisions every single day of our lives. You stop by a red light. Do you enjoy stopping by a red light? Not unless you want to check your text messages, which you shouldn't do. But we always say, shucks, the light does turn red. But if you decided not to listen to that red light, the consequence could be a lot worse than sitting for 3 minutes doing nothing. If I don't go to work, I will eventually be homeless because I won't be able to afford my mortgage or rent. And I don't want to be homeless because that's a worse consequence than going to work. If I don't pay my taxes, I will have more money today. But then the IRS could come after me, and those consequences could be a lot worse. If I don't do my homework, I'll have more spare time tonight, but then the teacher could fail me. So we make calculations not just on what motivates us to do something, but the fear and the consequence if I don't do something. That's level number 2. Number 3. Number 3 is the automatic result, the direct benefit. The act itself might be uncomfortable, but it has a positive result. A positive result that I can identify, that I can point to. If I floss my teeth, I have better gums. If I eat healthy, I will be healthier. So I make decisions about doing something, dieting, because I know that the end result is a benefit to me. I will be happier for it. I'll go through the difficulty. People that jog every single morning, people that go on long walks every single morning. You ask them, how do you do it? They say it feels good. I often wonder, does it feel good while you're doing it, or does it feel good after you've accomplished it? If you can reach the point that it feels good while you're doing it, teach me how to get to that point. I get the idea of once it's done and you feel great about yourself, but it's during those. I mean, those guys that just love it, every moment of it, you got to teach me how it's done. So there is, again, we did with monetary, there's a reason I'm getting paid, I'm afraid of the consequence, and there's a direct benefit. There's a benefit that I get from this act. Number 4, it brings pleasure to others. Now we're getting a little more spiritual. The act itself does nothing for me. I don't get paid for it. There's no consequence if I don't do it. There's no direct benefit to me. But if I visit my father in the hospital, or I visit someone that's ill, they benefit. And I feel good about bringing joy to someone I care about. So when you do something for your spouse, or you do something for a parent, or you do something for a child, or you do something for a close friend, you're investing your time, you're giving up of your time, but it feels good. Not because you're having any direct benefit, but you saw a smile on someone's face that you care about, and that's worth everything. That's number 4, a reason why you do certain things. And finally, number 5 is you believe that it makes a difference to the world at large. So you care about the environment and you make changes in your life because you believe that this will affect the entire world. And you feel that we each have to have our responsibility towards the global world, to making the world a better place. Are you with it? That's why we do things. I listed 5 reasons. Now, another reason given in the Jewish world that was made famous perhaps by Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof. Remember when Tevye was asked why you do something, what does he say? Tradition. He says one word, tradition, right? To quote exactly, here in Antefka, we have traditions for everything, he says. How to sleep, how to eat, how to work, how to wear clothes. For instance, we always keep our heads covered and always wear a little prayer shawl that shows our constant devotion to God. You may ask, how did the tradition get started? I'll tell you, I don't know, but it's a tradition. Is that playing the song Tradition? That would be great if that played right at that cue. But it's a tradition. And because of our traditions, every one of us knows who he is and what God expects him to do. I once had where I was at a little sentence in class where I said, sometimes God calls us on our cell phone, and the cell phone rang on cue. So Tevye says, I don't know why we do it. It's a tradition. So many in Judaism would answer this question, why do you do it, the way Tevye answers, my parents did it, so I do it. That doesn't include any of those 5 reasons that I gave you. Now, it's true that Jewish sources encourage us to uphold the traditions of our parents, of our grandparents, even if we don't quite understand their purpose. But on the other hand, tradition by itself does not really answer any of our questions. It doesn't explain the matter. It doesn't explain why would God instruct us to do it. What does God benefit from it? What do I benefit from it? Just because our grandparents used an outhouse doesn't mean I continue to use an outhouse. We've changed. We have now a bathroom in our own house, so we use that. So merely throwing everything is because that's a tradition without connecting it to anything is empty. And it doesn't really work for our generation of Jews that really want to understand, but why? So again, there's a lot of richness to tradition, and I definitely believe that we should keep our grandparents' things that they did sacred. My bubby put a lot of sugar in coffee when she gave it to me. I think that's a great tradition to keep up. There's a lot of richness of what they passed on, but Tevye simplified it way too much. In that, I don't know, it's just tradition. No. There is reasons behind things. There's motivating factors why your grandparents did it, or why their great-grandparents did it. So what are the motivational factors for the mitzvah? Let's start again, like we did with simple aspects in life, not just with Jewish mitzvot, but let's start with the simple motivational factor for a mitzvah. The Torah says, if you follow the mitzvot, you will be rewarded by God Almighty. That's the simple level. That's that monetary thing that we spoke about. You go to work, you don't necessarily enjoy the work, but you know you're going to get a paycheck. God says, follow my commandments, you get a paycheck. You may not see it visibly every single Friday. It doesn't come into the bank like an automatic ACH. But God says, I promise you reward for it. Reward could be in this world, reward could be in the heavenly world. God has His system, but He tells us in the Torah, you follow my commandments, it's going to be good for you. So on the very simple level, okay, I may not understand it, but God says if I do this, He rewards me. And it also says if I don't follow the mitzvot, then there are consequences for that. And those rewards and consequences, again, could be this lifetime or the world to come. That's very similar to number 1 and number 2 that I established before. Number 1, I go to work because I need to earn a living. Number 2, I refrain from doing things because of a fear of the consequence. Well, I don't want to take a chance when it comes to godly commandments to get God upset. And so I stay away from certain things that He wants me to stay away from. That's a very simplistic level. We're going to go deeper than that. But it starts with, as we say it in the Shema, if you follow my mitzvot, there'll be grass in your fields, there'll be food for your flock, there'll be food for your family, there'll be all the blessings that you want. It takes faith to believe it because you don't see it immediately. If every time you did a mitzvah there was a piggy bank and money was dropped into the piggy bank, it would be very easy for us to do the mitzvot, but it would take away our free choice. So the faith is that the system works somehow. In this lifetime and in our heavenly lifetime, the system really does work. Follow the mitzvot, it will be good for you. Don't follow, you're going to face consequences. Okay. But if the whole reason we perform a mitzvah is for the reward, we may have gained something in that imaginary piggy bank, but did we accomplish anything? Other than personal gain, did I accomplish anything? Did anything change? I might enjoy the reward. I might like the candy. I might like the paycheck, the heavenly experience. But does it help me appreciate that something has been accomplished? Something intrinsic. What does God gain from it? Does God need me to do this? Is the work itself meaningless other than he instructed me to do it, so I have to do it? There was this fellow that was in prison for years. And every day he was given a task in prison, and that is to turn a wheel that was attached to the wall. And he would just have to turn it, turn it, turn it. He didn't see what was on the other side of the wheel. But in his mind, going through this months and years, he started to build in his imagination that he must be turning a wheel that's connected to this. And he was building these machines that must be on the other side of this wall that he was accomplishing every single day. When his long sentence was over and they wanted to free him, he said, no, not so fast. I need to see what was on the other side of the wall, what I accomplished. And they took him there and he found absolutely nothing. And he collapsed. Because was I just doing nothing? We can't live with that. Is this just about reward? Is it just about reward and consequence? Is the mitzvah itself accomplishing anything? Is there a reason behind it other than God said? Give me something here. Is it just that God likes that we listen to him? Or is there something unique about the actual commandment? So Nachmanides writes the following. Nachmanides is one of the great codifiers and commentators. He said, the mitzvot were given solely to refine human beings. The mitzvot are not intended to benefit God. Their purpose is to benefit mankind. To keep us from harm, to shield us from negative beliefs, to shield us from base character traits, and to remind us of the miracles and wonders of the Creator, and to help us know God. So he takes an opinion, he takes an approach. Every commandment somehow benefits mankind. It's not just an instruction thrown to show authority, but it actually is a recipe for living a better life, a more quality life. We find similar writings of Maimonides, known as the Rambam, that the practice of the mitzvot help refine the human being. The more we get used to certain practices, the more effect it has on our lives. So now we have already mentioned weeks ago, because we're studying this semester the subject of kosher. We've established 2 weeks ago that kosher is one of those mitzvot that are not given to us with a reason. The Bible does not state a reason why God gives us this commandment of keeping kosher. It's part of the category of mitzvot called chukim. At the same time, I made mention of earlier, and I'll be making mention of again next week, and I'll mention it obviously again this week, that every mitzvah has some practical benefit to the human being. Now, whether that practical benefit is the reason God gave us the commandment or not doesn't really matter. With kosher, God says, I'm not telling you the reason. You can figure it out for yourself, or it can remain a mystery for you. But that doesn't negate the fact that we could point to practical benefits to the human being by keeping it. And that's what Maimonides and Nachmanides are both teaching us. That every mitzvah has certain practical benefits to mankind. It's not just God exercising authority, but they're deeply thought through of how will this make your life better? How will it make mankind better? So let's look at some possible character building traits that we can gain from kosher. I will elaborate on them more next week. Number one is compassion. What does compassion have to do with kosher? How we treat an animal. The laws of kosher and the laws of slaughtering an animal in the laws of kosher are about compassion for the animal. That the animal needs to be slaughtered in a way that brings no pain to the animal. That slaughtering an animal that brings pain to the animal is not kosher. There's laws in the Torah about Avram and Achai that's not just for the Jewish people, but are for all of mankind. You can't take a piece of an animal off a live animal and eat it. It's not the laws of the jungle here. Why? Because the animal has rights as well endowed by God. God allows the human being to eat of the animal, but at the same time, you're going to be kind to the animal. Hunting is forbidden in Jewish law. hunting as a sport. Why? Just because you want a sport. What is it? Why are you killing an animal for? You need to eat the animal, that's one thing. Then it's going to be done in a very humane way. Now, is that the reason God gave us kosher? I don't know. But can I see clearly a character benefit to the human being from studying the laws of kosher? Absolutely. Another idea about kosher, self-discipline. We try teaching ourselves self-discipline in so many ways because we need self-discipline to get through life. If we allow everything to go whatever I want, we're not going to have a healthy life. So having self-discipline in my life is a very healthy thing. Kosher clearly gives me certain self-disciplines. It builds in certain self-disciplines of that I need to stop and ask before I eat anything, is it kosher or not? And if it's not kosher, I cannot eat it, even if I want it, even if it looks good. So another benefit of kosher is that it breaks in self-discipline. It teaches me some things yes, some things no. Spiritual awareness is another benefit of kosher. That I am constantly aware that there is more than just a physical body. There's a physical body and there's a spiritual soul. And the spiritual soul requires a particular diet. So it's a constant reminder that there's something more than just the human being. That benefits me not just in the world of kosher, but it benefits me in every aspect of life. And finally, I'll point out, and again I'll elaborate it on more next week, Jewish identity. Kosher keeps the Jewish people identifying as a Jewish people. It has worked for thousands of years of keeping a Jewish community Jewish and identifying as a Jew. These are all side benefits to kosher. According to Maimonides and Nachmanides' approach, we can look into every single mitzvah somehow and find this listing of how it is beneficial to the Jewish people in particular and to the world as a whole when God gives us a commandment. So they do not take the approach that it's just about the paycheck. It's just about the fear of consequence. That's there. That's on an elementary level. That's on that first grade level. But as we mature, this relationship with God becomes more of, what's the reason you want me to do this? Oh, you want the reason? We start looking to the benefits that the commandment actually has in our life. Let's keep going a little bit deeper. I mentioned in the beginning of class today when I said, what's the translation of the word mitzvah? And we established that the general phrase means commandment. But that's not really the only meaning of the word mitzvah. Mitzvah also has the word of tzafta, a connection, a relationship. The mitzvah establishes a relationship, a connection. What does it connect us to? It connects us to the giver of the commandment. The mitzvah is the attachment, it's the cord, it's the rope that attaches us to God. God gives us a commandment. When we attach ourselves to that commandment, we are attaching ourselves to the giver of the commandment. King David, if you read his book of Psalms, he talks a lot about his relationship with God. He writes the following, as the deer longs for streams of water, so I long for you, O God. I thirst for God, the living God. When will I come and appear in God's presence? So many of his 150 chapters, so many of our prayers that we say on a daily basis are talking about our longing to have a connection, a relationship with God. Now, going back to how I started, this idea of sharing a relationship with God can sound absurd. I can understand a human and a human having a connection, a relationship. As humans, we all have something in common. But how can we talk about a relationship with an infinite God? What do I have in common with a creator that created me? God is not a created being. God doesn't take up space. He transcends time and space. Can a finite creation and an infinite creator share a relationship? So I'm going to use a story. It's an actual story that I saw in ESPN in 2015. It was a great story. There was a kid, a 13-year-old kid. His name was Ethan Couch. Ethan Couch loved golf. He's 13 years old. He was taking golf lessons. He followed every golf tournament. He was very much into it. At some point, his parents noticed that he wasn't doing well, that he was suffering with some strange symptoms. They took him to get some tests, and they found that he had an inoperable tumor in his brain. For a 13-year-old kid and for his family, you could imagine the devastation. So through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, it was put out that Ethan Couch's dream was to attend one of the master tournaments, the one in Augusta, Georgia. That was his dream in life, was one time to be there, to watch it take place. One of the golfers that was playing in the Masters that week saw the post. His name was Kevin Streelman. And Kevin Streelman calls Ethan Couch, and he says, I'm looking for a caddy for the Masters. Those that don't know golf, the caddy is the guy that carries the clubs going from hole to hole, schleps the clubs. I'm looking for a caddy. Are you available? And Ethan Couch, he knows who this golfer is. He obviously knows what the Augusta tournament is. To be a caddy, he's in seventh heaven. And that weekend, he was the caddy of Kevin Streelman. Obviously, they had someone else help with some of the schlepping, but he was there. Now, the story was very touching. Anytime you read a story like that, you feel the emotions, you feel for it, and how he writes, how this boy Ethan writes, what that experience meant for him, and he could never thank the golfer enough for it. But I want you to think of it from this perspective. Ethan Couch wants to attend the Masters. Streelman hears this, and he can do the easy thing. He can send him tickets. That's what he asked for. Send him tickets. You can get tickets. You're one of the golfers. You have access to tickets. That's what the kid wanted. Send him tickets. Instead, he makes this kid, who's been hospitalized, schlep golf clubs around for him a whole day. He turns him into a servant. Why didn't you just give him the tickets? Let him be comfortable. Instead, you made him work. Why would you do that to the kid? You see that perspective? What's the answer? What Streelman did was, you're not just going to be a spectator. You're going to be on the course with me. I'm going to consult with you before each shot which club I should use. It wasn't just the giving of the ticket. That was easy. It was making him a partner in it. And that's what made this experience so different. That's what made the story so touching. Had he just sent tickets, every athlete gives out tickets to kids before every game. They all do it. He did something different. He put the kid on the course, which is his dream in life, is one day that he can play here on this course. And there he was. God gave us the mitzvot to open the door for us to connect to Him, to be on the course with Him. Yes, it means we're schlepping the golf clubs, but we're schlepping it for God. God's asking us to do something for Him, and we're kvetching. We get the chance to be on Augusta. We get a chance to be on the golf course with the golfers. And instead, what we're saying is, why do you have to make me work so hard? God chose in His infinite wisdom. Yes, He's infinite and I'm finite, but in His infinite wisdom, He chose to have this relationship with us. And in order for Him to have a relationship with a finite human being, He needs to make Himself vulnerable in order to give us the opportunity to do something for Him. So yes, we're worlds apart. We're infinite worlds apart. But once God asks us to do something for Him, the connection is made. Now we're connected. That's the meaning of the phrase, if you've ever heard it, the reward of a mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. The real reward is not that you're going to get paid for it, and then not that you're going to get eternal heaven. All that is good. That was to whet your appetite. But now that I have your attention, the real reward is the mitzvah itself. It's because the commandment is coming from the infinite creator that for whatever reason wants to have a relationship with you. And the way to have that relationship is to bring you on the golf course with him and to say, this is important. I would like you to try to do this for me. Wow. It's an entirely different way of looking at the commandments. So, the old way, pre-class today, of how we looked at a mitzvah is that it's a commandment. The new way should be that it's an opportunity for a connection. I want you to start thinking differently about when you're asked to do a mitzvah. Instead of looking at it, oh, they're asking me to do this commandment or this commandment, think about it as an opportunity to connect. Think about my little story about Ethan Couch and the golfer. He wants to connect with him, and so he gives him an opportunity to golf together with him. The old way, we would say, I have to do a mitzvah. The new way of thinking, I get to do a mitzvah. Have to is obligation. Get to is privilege. How you look at it makes all the difference in your excitement about doing it or not. If it's you have to, that's the old European way, right? You have to do it. The real way of understanding mitzvah is, wow, I get to do a mitzvah. The old way, I need to do a mitzvah so that God will love me. Right? I want to gain God's love, so I'll do this mitzvah so that he should love me. Let me give you the new way. God loves me, so he gave me a mitzvah to do. I changed the words just so slightly, but I changed everything for you completely around of how you look at things. Is it opportunity or is it obligation? Is it someone authoritatively standing over my head and if you don't do this, or it's I love you and therefore I'm giving you these opportunities to find connection to me. Now it's not just semantics. It changes how we view each and every commandment and how we change the motivation to do each and every single commandment. It changes our spirit. Suddenly the effort is not just a chore, it's an honor. I want to add one more perspective to this. I want to quote from the first Chabad Rebbe in this classic work known as the Tanya. And he writes this: when we perform a mitzvah, we infuse the physical world with the infinite light of the divine. This is our entire purpose and the reason we were created, to transform the darkness of this lowly world into light, that God's glory should fill the entire physical world. Before creation, there was only God. God then creates an existence that conceals his own. You don't see God here on earth. He created an existence of plurality, an existence which seemingly has its own independence from God. You don't feel, you don't sense the unity of God when we look at nature. You don't feel that connection to God on an average day. Our task is to bring God's oneness and light into the world so that we do see it, so that we recognize it, to demonstrate that all is from God and how every part of existence is really a reflection of godliness. To make this simplified in more of a Kabbalistic, Hasidic understanding of the mitzvah. Each and every mitzvah we do brings divine light into this world. Divine light means it's more divine energy, it's more godliness coming into the world. Remember I said that fifth level was you believe that you have a role to play in making the world a better place? Doing a mitzvah makes the world a more spiritual place for all of humanity. And somehow, every mitzvah we do, think of it like, as a way Right now, in the ear right now, there's a lot of waves, sound waves, air waves, Wi-Fi waves going around in the ear, but you don't see it. You don't have any connection to it. But if you had a transistor radio with an antenna, it would pick up the sound waves. If you have a cell phone, it picks up the Wi-Fi that's in the air. It anchors it, it brings it in. The mitzvah brings in that connection to God that's always been here. We don't see it because it's a physical world. The mitzvah is that connection to that energy. It brings that energy into your life, into your home, and into your world. That's the highest reason for the mitzvah. So we went through 5 levels of why we do anything, and 5 levels of why we particularly do a mitzvah. We start off with the simple, monetary gain, fear of consequence, the relationship, and we ultimately bring it to that because we're making this world a more godly world for all of mankind. I'll conclude this week with this. Is it all or nothing? When we talk about commandments, is it all or nothing? Is it that you have to embrace all of them, or if not, you're a hypocrite of some sort? And I'll use a simple example that I always come back to because I struggle with it myself. Dieting. If someone is on a diet and they're trying to keep off sugar, and you see a cupcake, and you crave that little cupcake, and you give in, and you eat the cupcake, does that mean you should stop dieting? The answer is no, of course not. Life is not all or nothing. We don't live that way. We try. We do our best. Most of us, in day-to-day life, we don't adapt this all or nothing type philosophy. We try as best we can. And because we're human and we're not angel, we slip. And what do we do when we slip? We try again. We learn from our past mistakes. In my simple cupcake example, it would mean, don't pass President Street and Kingston Avenue in Crown Heights, because they have this donut shop, and they cruelly put all the donuts right in the window. You pass on the other side of the street so you don't see it, because I can't pass that corner without going in. I know that now. I know that because 100 times I have failed. Cross the street. Do things that you know will protect you from the same mistake you made yesterday. Try to come up with what's it going to take to go one step further. That's the same thing with the mitzvot. We try. We pick one mitzvah. And we try with this new attitude of looking at it differently than we did yesterday. And we try incorporating into our lives the best we can. And that's all God can want from us, the best we can. And we try, and we see. And once we've conquered it, we don't end there. We'll try another one, and we'll try another. And if we fail, we'll figure it out, why we failed, what went wrong, what I need to make it work, and we'll keep trying again. That's life. We're not angels. We're not all righteous people that are perfection, that live a life of perfection, that can do all the commandments all the time without fail. That's what God wants from us. So bringing it back to kosher, wherever you are in the level of kosher or no kosher at all, try one step. Each in your own life. Try one step, one thing different about kosher that you didn't do yesterday. And do it for the right reason, not because Brisky is asking you to do it, not even because your bubby did it that way, because wow, it's an opportunity to go on the course of Augusta and be there together with God. And that one little change is meaningful to God. It establishes that relationship. So whether it means the next time you go shopping, you're going to look for that OU, the OK symbol, whether that means you're going to refrain from going to a non-kosher restaurant once a week and try pizza and ash out, make that one change, one small deed. Try it and see where it leads you.